Who's getting ready for the main event? The World Lightweight Championship bout that we have. Who's ready for that? Well, that's coming right up with our main event, but now it is time for the 7th bout on the card. It is back under mixed martial arts rules, and it is set for 3 3-minute rounds in the featherweight division. Introducing first, fighting out the Dynamic Mortgage Concepts red corner, please welcome Josh Hernandez.
Well, here we go, back to MMA at the 140-pound classification. Hey, check that, 145 featherweight.
A lot taller, Hernandez. That, you know, some of these times we call it the tail of the tape. Somebody once invented that name and it just never changed. That's what we call it now, forever. And sometimes you look at, we can compare, you know, he weighed 1 more pound or whatever, but a 5-inch height advantage is a big factor.
Well, and usually that means a reach advantage as well.
Yes,
Very odd occasions you may have it the other way. And again, you look at the tail of the tape, you got a fighter that's much more advanced in age at 32 years old, both with their MMA debuts, and you wonder what road they traveled to get there at that point of their life.
True, and what you came through, what were you learning in the process, and what did you learn in what order, and how did it feed all of your skills together? A 5-inch height advantage and a 5-inch reach advantage, we think of that with punches and then of course kicks even longer, but you start to lock up somebody's body with your long limbs. It's very different. Guillotines are different with longer arms. Triangles are different with longer legs. Work from a half guard is different in heights. When you train with other fighters, you get to train with all these different body types, but everyone is just a little different.
And the amateur level too, I think when the amateur level a little less is known about your opponent, when you get to the pros and you know that you know what the guy is, there's plenty of tape out there, you know that you're the shorter fighter, you know how that fighter fights, you're able to kind of prepare for that fight and going to the fight with a little more of a game plan.
Yeah, and you know, as you're coming up, sometimes it's good to not know too much. We need you concerned with just
what you're doing.
Yeah, and your best performance.
And his opponent, fighting out of the Nutrition Company of Cheyenne blue corner, please welcome to the cage, Rich Morquecho.
That's a good point, Robin, as Morquecho's making his way to the cage, that you can go too far into what your opponent does. Matter of fact, a lot of my buddies that fight MMA, like Ian Hines, they figure out what they want to do first. They focus on themselves. Their coach gets them dialed in on whatever else they need to do.
Yeah, and many fighters will tell you, you know, one comes to mind, Chad Laprise, high-level UFC fighter. He was knocked out with an overhand right, and he told me, he said, I watched this man's overhand right over and over to figure out how to avoid it. He said, I watched myself right into getting hit by it. If you're watching too much of the opponent, if you're studying them too much, it can make an effect on you that you don't even realize. What we want to do when you're young is make sure, 1, you're trained and conditioned, and then 2, you're in a psychological state where you can allow yourself to express your training. Those things are so important that, you know, if we distract you with more information, sometimes it can actually make it more difficult to do that.
JR?
And on the opposite end of that, you can study tape on an opponent trying to think that you're going to capitalize on his mistakes. He's gone and fixed all those things. All that game plan that you had coming in, all of a sudden it's not there, and you're facing things that you hadn't really expected.
So people don't necessarily realize this. Outside of the narratives of talk about fighting, if you go in and you talk to these coaches, they are game planning, or they are assuming that their opponent will have studied particular so-called flaws that already exist in their fighter, and you can predict, okay, if I have often done this guy's going to throw a lot of leg kicks. We prepare for a lot of leg kicks to come, and you actually prepare to counter the improvements that he thinks he needs to make to beat you. It's such, and I know you are a commentator for many different sports. I'm sure in football it is exactly the same thing. We're preparing our team to beat what they think we are.
And it's the game plan. And the thing about it is when a team comes out and surprises you, you know what, you're seeing that a lot right now in college football, because with what's going on with COVID-19, things are a little more under wraps. There's less media involved, less people at practices. They can't see sometimes what the teams are doing and how they're preparing.
Very cool, very cool.
Ladies and gentlemen, this MMA bout is brought to you by Cowboy Dodge. Let's meet our fighters. First, fighting out of the Dynamic Mortgage Concepts red corner, from Chicago, Illinois, representing Hybrid Nation, Josh the Rooster Hernandez. And his opponent, fighting out of the Nutrition Company of Cheyenne blue corner, from San Jose, California, representing Elevation Fight Team, Rich Morquecho.
And I can promise you this, Morquecho is representing Elevation Fight
guys.
Team. Obviously, you know some of the fighters from Elevation.
Fair fight from you
Yeah,
guys.
this
Say
is
my
a
rules all the
high
time. If
level
you're gonna touch
gym,
them up,
and,
do it
and
now.
fighters
and come
from
out
all
fighting.
over are going and spending time there. You'll get other high-level fighters moving in and out of there. all the
Well, you get the opportunity to train with Justin Gaethje at times. And some of
Sandhagen
the
is
great
there.
Hagen,
Yeah.
Corey Sandhagen is there. You take a look at some of the a litany. They're actually just came out as the 3rd ranked MMA gym in the world.
They're brilliant. And hey, when you're this size, you won't train with Alistair Overeem a lot, but just being around fighters like an Alistair Overeem, a true legend in that room, you know, some of those, it rubs off. It does.
2 of the top 5 gyms in the world of MMA are in Arvada, and Elevation is one of them. Genesis Training Academy is the other, and I'm bummed that you didn't get to see Archie Colgan fight. He's an up-and-coming amateur fighter that's going to make some big-time news when he turns pro.
Yeah, I've been hearing about him. Hernandez now using the long
Oh,
weapons.
and a nice strike with the left.
Yeah. Morquecho took the shot and then answered on the retraction. And awesome choice there. Just fire to the body. The clinch isn't dangerous at that moment. Fire to the body.
Right, the body was open. That's where he went with a little bit of a combination.
Yeah. Wow, I like the looks of this fight.
Morquecho trying to negotiate that reach difference.
You notice Hernandez's hands are open.
Ooh.
Perfect time to be throwing those quick punches by Morquecho.
Yeah, and Morquecho scored with that left because you felt Hernandez with the mouthpiece kind of spit that out, telegraphed that turning kick.
When he's throwing those kicks, something you'll hear sometimes people will say, don't throw naked kicks. That's not true either. That is absolutely not true. But when you lead with a kick, you're offering the chance to counter, right? Morquecho can take it off the arms, touch into it, and they train over and over. Take the kick, throw the punch. It's just embedded into you.
Morquecho trying to negotiate that distance, goes with the right hand, scores, and then backs up.
I love the word negotiate because really a fight is a negotiation. It's a conversation, it's a debate. We're using our physical tools to debate each other.
Morquecho stalking. Hernandez goes to the counter on that kick again. Morquecho was prepared for it.
And Hernandez just popped out one right-handed jab, and that was a really, really good idea because it's been all kick city so far. So at least offer the hands straight up the middle.
Provide something else for him to look at as well to say, okay, if you're coming in, look out for this.
Yes, sir. You want the brain, you want the brain of the opponent to have to inventory all the threats. And you do it subconsciously. You're trained to do it, but it distracts the brain.
Nice inside leg kick by Hernandez, scores. Flinches with that left, kind of a little feint.
Yeah, and that helps too. Because again, Morquecho has to inventory the threats and then react around them. This is not done consciously, this is trained into him, but it adds more that he has to deal with.
14 seconds left in this opening round. Morquecho now going forward, the outside leg kick, scores. Seconds almost out. Morquecho going with that right hand.
He pops in so beautifully.
Hernandez counters with that right leg kick. JR?
So by the very slimmest of margins, I had that one round 10-9 for Hernandez. Morquecho came forward with some really nice power strikes, landed well in a couple of flurries, but just by sheer volume and more time controlling the round, I had it for Hernandez 10-9.
All right, there you go. Here's some of the action right here. Morquecho coming back with that big left that scores.
Yeah, he sweeps the way. You'll see he sweeps it to the outside and counters, or he'll turn gently into the punch, into the kick, and then counter in deep. And he knows when he takes these shots, he has to bounce into this range. And right here, I don't know if this is when he threw punches to the body, but he did. Maybe.
That little combination that you were talking about, yep.
The hands are attached to him so much so that he's got the chance to throw punches right here. The knee would be the main weapon that's coming, and there it is.
Yeah, and you saw Morquecho that had the opportunity. There's the punches
Yeah.
you're talking about to the midsection where he had like 4 or 5 right in a row.
Yep. It was because Hernandez was so committed to the clinch that it's that little comfort and that feel. Morquecho could feel that elbows would not come because of the commitment to the clinch, so there was only the knee to worry about, and the body would be open.
Hernandez using that length advantage, getting that first jab out there to kind of set things up. Again, coming back with a big left hand that scored.
Yep. And then in for more. And I believe they maybe have asked him to throw punches to close distance to try to work this to the ground. But you saw a very different Hernandez, not leading with kicks, instead throwing those punches.
Yeah, a little more mustard on those punches coming in.
Yep.
And right now, I think Morquecho really trying to kind of turn things around.
Hernandez's mouthpiece came out.
Yep.
But he's got control here. We talked about underhooks, but a powerful overhook here is a form of control as well. So it's there. And now's the right time at 50-50 hands.
Right, to get the break, get that mouthpiece back in. I saw it come out. I wasn't too sure I was doing a double take. Thanks for picking me up.
Well, the ref did a great job there, because if you have an advantage and my mouthpiece is out, we cannot stop it. But if we're 50-50 and it's all even, that's the right time. So
absolutely.
Excellent job by the ref.
Morquecho trying to score with that overhand right, but Hernandez comes back. He's found a home for that left.
Yep. Yeah, and some of it may have been cornering. You know, it feels like the type of adaptation where somebody said, hey, look, man, your left hand is a great weapon, and it's there. You haven't been using it, so it may surprise him when you throw it.
Oh, it's definitely got Morquecho's attention, because he's a little more wary coming in now, whereas in the first round, he was attacking.
Yeah, when it was all kick city, he knew a kick would come and he'd get a chance to throw. But now that the straight left has, it's changed his awareness, and it's given his brain something else to try to deal with here.
And again, you talked about the 5-inch reach advantage. You're seeing it put on display here in the second round for Hernandez.
Yeah, that's a great point, my friend, because coming into it, if you would have said to him, hey, what would you like to do? He would have said, I'd like to have him on the end of my punches. But in round one, he didn't do that. So, and JR had him winning round one even without this adaptation. So excellent work here. But, we can only speak about one thing at a time. And make no mistake, Morquecho is looking excellent. He's doing just the right things at the right time himself.
Morquecho absorbed a kick to the midsection by Hernandez, coming back off the cage. Outside leg kick.
Yep. Good choice. If you're he's throwing hands at you, and he's putting weight on the front leg, fire the kick.
Second one was blocked. Uppercut landed and scored that very well.
Yeah, he felt it. A small wobble. I don't know if he was affected neurologically, but he turned his right hip just to scoop that uppercut in, dig it a little deeper.
Yeah, and you see him right now in the clinch trying to hit that uppercut to the body as well. But I agree with you. I think that caught him a little bit off guard. Morquecho felt that.
There's a lot of cliches in the fight game, my friend, and one of them is the one you don't see, right? And it may be a cliche, but there's truth in these things. Oh, that's an offer. Now he's starting to offer differences as well. Overload the CPU ever so slightly.
And what that did, that opened up the right hand for him to come over the top with the right hand and score.
Yep, literally he added elements to it just as Hernandez had done earlier.
Well, Hernandez and Morquecho.
Well, you guys both talked about it, the height and reach advantage of Hernandez. I thought he did a nice job of managing distance with his advantage. But the other thing that I saw from Hernandez is the way that he managed the height when they were in close. He's still using his height to his advantage, even when they're clinched up. So by virtue of him controlling the action within all ranges, I have it another 10-9 round for Hernandez.
And I agree. When you take a look at how he utilized his spacing, and then when he got into the clinch, trying to throw the knees.
Yes. This is often talked about, the idea that at long range, the longer fighter has an advantage, but much less often talked about, and thanks for bringing it up, JR, there's also an advantage in tight, because there's a leverage advantage from over top. So the primary range for Morquecho is right in between those. That inside, they call it the pocket in boxing, and we call it the pocket in many sports. That little zone in between, all the way out and all the way in. That's where Morquecho wants to fight.
And the ability to use both your kicks and punches in that zone is what gives him the ability to win a fight.
Yeah. The addition. Sometimes it is easy. For a corner, you can look and go, man, we need you to throw straight punches tonight.
Right, make this adjustment.
Yep, if you didn't do it in round one, the great part about that is it's there for you to try now. Morquecho has got his hands joined, but they're up really high.
Yeah, Morquecho tried to get that takedown unable to do so. So far, great takedown defense by Josh Hernandez.
Yeah, well, now he's gone to the high crotch. And he's bent him over. Now he can join his hand.
Now he's got it.
Yep. The high crotch.
Staying with it. Sometimes you got to know when to let go. And he knew that he had an opportunity there. Morquecho gets the takedown, and he gets into a position where now he can do some damage, although Hernandez is holding on.
Yeah, you are absolutely right. Like there are times where you won't get it, but try to tell that to a guy who's fully committed, and sometimes it's in your choice. You move to the high crotch, you get a reaction from him. When he reacts and he goes up high, you go down low. But it's a whole new ball game now down here. Height, and you don't have reach off your back. You're only 6 inches tall here, but you do have all these other dangers of your long limbs.
Morquecho using his head position to try to create some space to come up with some attacking right there.
Yeah, you take the head, and underneath the chin, you do what some call stacking the vertebrae. You stack the vertebrae and you open your man up. But excellent work from Hernandez.
Hernandez again trying to go back to it, but Hernandez able to sprawl when Morquecho comes in. So Morquecho able to get that takedown, not able to hold it down.
Morquecho now still doing, like, making you guess, am I punching or am I dropping? Am I lowering my hips or am I throwing punches at your chin? And he's forcing Hernandez to have to interpret this, and that's good.
Big wild right hand by Morquecho a moment ago. Now under a minute left in this third round.
You know, it's not impossible that Morquecho won round one. We thought Hernandez may have done it and certainly won round two, but round one was the close one. So you may not need to knock the guy out or get a 10-8 round. It could be one apiece possibly here.
Yeah, it depends on how the judges saw this fight. Uppercut trying to score by Morquecho there.
Hernandez landed the uppercut earlier tonight, and he looked for another one there against Morquecho's uppercut.
Morquecho again having a hard time getting in. And you know, the other thing about that takedown that he stayed with, it was the third round. Sometimes in the opening round, you have a fresher fighter. You're not going to get that takedown. Into the third round, that's when you can get it.
True.
Morquecho going downstairs. Just 10 seconds left in this fight. Right cross, right hook by Hernandez doesn't score. Morquecho comes back again with the low kick to the leg.
Landing shots at the end and getting the takedown at the beginning. That was a nice little performance from Morquecho in round three.
JR.
Hernandez not able to do as much with the distancing as he did in rounds 1 and 2. Once they were inside the clinch, Morquecho used that power, used that strength, able to get underneath his opponent, control the clinch, and then the most impactful moment of the round, of course, was the takedown. Morquecho wasn't able to do a whole lot with it, but he did score the takedown. He did control position there. So I have a 10-9 for Morquecho in the third, making my score 29-28 Hernandez over the entirety of it.
JR, did you think that someone could have seen round one for Morquecho as well?
Yeah, I think possibly so. It was a close round. As we've talked about, we have the screen here in front of us, so we can see the fight from different angles. Depending on what a judge sees from their solitary position, strikes that they see that we don't, strikes that we see that they don't, those can both impact why a judge may see it differently than we do.
Absolutely, and we sometimes have the ability for replay between rounds as well, where it kind of reinforces what our thought process is.
Yes. And there's human bias. You know, sometimes what you've already seen, you believe it is more impactful than it is. You know, we all have natural biases that just exist in us as humans. So, you know, we all see things differently.
Well, let's see how the judges saw this one. Big Mo trying to get the cards right now as they are tallying their scores. That was the 7th bout of the evening as we build ever closer to the Lethwei World title with Dave LeDuc and Cyrus Washington. And I know a lot of the viewers are tuned in for that because it's making history here in North America with such a high-profile fighter like Dave LeDuc. Yeah. And you've called his fights before.
Yeah. It's special when he's on his game, and he's almost always on it. And that's the trick. If he can access that true freedom that it takes to fight that way, then he is something very special to see. But do not assume that Cyrus Washington can't knock him out with one shot.
Here's the decision.
Ladies and gentlemen, after 3 full rounds, we go to your judges' scorecard for the official decision. All 3 judges scored about 29-28, declaring your winner by unanimous decision, Josh the Rooster Hernandez.
Well, so far, J.R. Gordon's been right on the money, and I think a little bit disappointment from Morquecho, and rightfully so. He did a lot of good things in the fight. It just wasn't enough.
Yeah, if I was, Morquecho's friend or coach, I'd be like, bro, that was a great fight. You had a wonderful, wonderful fight. The results are important. The consequences, the outcome, they're important, but they're not everything. This is a journey of progression, of improvement, of passionate, self-discovery.
All right,
and he learned a lot from this
now
fight.
with your winner, Josh Hernandez. Josh, you came from Chicago, got a win over a talented local fighter. How does the victory feel tonight after that?
It feels pretty great. I'm thankful to get a chance to step in here tonight and do my thing. Shout out to my corners for being really supportive, and shout out to Rich.
You were the much taller opponent in there. You did a great job of staying long with your strikes. He was able to take you down only once, but didn't do a lot of damage. What was the game plan? What did you expect to see from him?
The game plan was kind of keep him away with my length. Kind of went according to plan, and he's got a great takedown.
Congratulations on a great performance tonight. Is there anybody that you want to thank while you're here?
I want to thank my coaches and my 2 kids, for always being there for me.
Awesome job, Josh. Congratulations.